Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. I am your host for today. Well, for every day. We are live right now on Rumble at Matt Morris TV and on YouTube at Matt Morris TV. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about today. You see, as it pertains to Venezuela and the Maduro regime therein, things have been escalating very quickly all day today, to say the least. It seems as if direct military action, military conflict is inevitable, and we've also gotten numerous reports today indicating or suggesting that today, President Trump received what can only be described as a dire ultimatum from none other than President Trump. And so we're going to be talking about that ultimatum today and really what this means and what we can expect, perhaps even later tonight. And we're going to do a recap of everything that has gone on today. Really, to kick off today's show, we should talk about this complete and total shutdown of the Venezuelan airspace that President Trump ordered about 8 hours ago. President Trump, the president of the United States, ordered about 8 hours ago the complete and total shutdown of the Venezuelan airspace. That is a big deal, and I think that is an omen, a sign of what is to come very, very soon. Perhaps some people are expecting even later tonight. So, folks, I do want to say before we start breaking down everything that is going on right now, and there's a lot to break down, do me a favor and make sure to like and subscribe on Rumble and on YouTube. Follow, subscribe, like. YouTube is doing this thing again today. I don't know if you noticed where I'm getting pulled out of the algorithm. The only way to hedge our bets against this YouTube sort of meddling going on is to make sure to subscribe. So that would mean a lot. Thank you very much, everybody. With that being said, with the intro out of the way, let's get into the show. The best place to start to kick things off is to read President Trump's announcement early this morning. He said, and I quote, "To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." Now, folks, that is a big deal. That means President Trump is saying, listen, nobody is to be flying around or over Venezuela. I see the first response here is, something huge is about to happen. Yeah, this is the type of thing that President Trump does before something huge is about to happen. Now, let's real quick, we can take a look at Flight Radar. It's a website called Flight Radar 24. We can actually track commercial and transport aircraft all over the world. Zoom out, get a good look. There's a billion planes flying over the United States, all over the place, over Europe, and there's a trillion of them, okay? So let's take a look at Venezuela because really that is the topic of the night. Now, do you see many airplanes flying over Venezuela? Normally you do, especially right outside of Caracas, the capital. Well, right now I'm zooming in. I'm really only seeing one airplane. This is coming out of Colombia, well, going into Colombia. So this is a Colombian aircraft leaving, getting out of Dodge, saying, all right, something big is happening. We're going home. So there's one aircraft currently right this moment over Venezuela. There's another one off the coast, a little bit north. This is a Venezuelan aircraft. So pretty much all the aircraft have shut down. They're in the process of landing or leaving, going home, ground all the planes. Seems like President Trump's order was effective. Now, the Venezuelan government has responded to President Trump's order. The Venezuelan government, quote, demands respect for its airspace, saying it won't accept President Trump's order that their airspace is closed. Well, seems as if the airspace has been closed nonetheless. How about Maduro respects American lives and stops narco trafficking to kill our citizens, says this post here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into this, there's a lot to talk about here. We should talk about why is this happening? Why this morning has President Trump ordered a complete and total closure, a shutdown of the Venezuelan airspace? Well, the reasons, there is a plurality of reasons here. The first off, let's get some information on the table here, okay? Since the year 2000, so over the last 25 years, there's a dog hair on my hat. Over the last 25 years, around 10% of all of the illicit narcotics that have come into the United States have come from Venezuela. The majority, 90%, have generally speaking come across the US-Mexico border. Well, President Trump has pretty much shut down that border. The border is pretty much on lockdown. That is to say, nowhere near the number of illicit narcotics are coming across that border today as they were 12 months ago when Joe Biden was still in the White House. That much can be said. So President Trump has taken a concrete step to shut down the narcotic trafficking across the U.S.-Mexico border. So now President Trump has shifted his gaze towards the remaining 10%. Like I said, over the last 25 years, 10% has come from Venezuela, which doesn't even share a land border with us. It's generally maritime trafficking, which is why President Trump, the Department of War, they've been blowing up all of these boats. You might have heard the news. I think they've blown up like 20 of these narco trafficking boats now. So Trump is trying to shut down the narco trafficking. Now, in that time frame, over the last 25 years, this huge quantity of narcotics that have come in the country from Venezuela, this has resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of Americans, of the crippling lifelong addictions to drugs like methamphetamine, fentanyl, various other opiates, millions of addictions, lifelong addictions crippling the lives of Americans. The Maduro regime has been lacing more benign drugs, like maybe party drugs, a little bit of marijuana, ecstasy, LSD, stuff that people are taking at parties. They're lacing these drugs. Maduro regime is lacing these drugs with deadly narcotics like fentanyl primarily. So imagine a young 20-year-old young woman or young man goes to a party, goes to a rave. I'm going to take some party drugs and go crazy for the night. Boom, overdose, dead. Courtesy of Nicolas Maduro and his narco-terror regime. So that is a component of all of this. Maduro's regime, I'm sure you've all heard President Trump has said this time and time again. The Maduro regime, we know for a fact, has emptied hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan criminals and psychiatric patients from Venezuela. They've emptied their prisons and mental hospitals and shipped all of those people up into America. He said, listen, here's a great way to get all these people out of our prisons, off our hands. Just send them up across the border up to the United States. So we've been having to deal with that. That is another thing the Maduro regime has done. And then on top of that, this is sort of a developing story. We talked about this probably 3 days ago. For those of you that are clued in, you probably know a lot about this as well. The Trump administration now has a confirmation that Venezuela, the Maduro regime who came into power in 2013, has played a significant role in rigging numerous elections, not just in the United States, namely the 2020 election. They played a huge role in the 2020 election rigging and also an attempted rig of the 2024 election. But also, the Maduro regime has been involved in rigging elections in 29 other countries all around the world. And now the Trump administration has put together the proof that's coming out of the office of Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. So it's like problem after problem after problem, illicit behavior after illicit behavior after illicit behavior coming out of Venezuela, anti-American deadly behavior, narco-terror behavior. For a very long time, Maduro has had a $25 million bounty on his head, dead or alive. Maduro is a DOJ, Department of Justice designated narco-terrorist. When Trump got back in the White House 11 months ago, he doubled that DOJ bounty on Maduro's head up to $50 million. So, to say the least, the Trump administration takes this guy very seriously. The U.S. government has taken Maduro seriously for a very long time, even going back to the Obama days. Maduro, it's bad news, to say the least. That will probably be sufficient. So for those of you that are asking, why is this happening? Why is Trump taking a hardline stance against Venezuela and the Maduro regime? Well, this hopefully kind of answered a lot of your questions. So let's keep going on through today's news. What has been going on today? We have a report coming out of Cuba. Cuba's foreign minister came out and said earlier today that he made an accusation that the U.S. is causing, quote, persistent electromagnetic interference over the Caribbean, specifically above Venezuelan airspace, blaming it on the growing U.S. military buildup in the region. And by the way, to be very clear, we do have a growing military buildup off of the coast of Venezuela. The Cuban foreign minister is saying that the U.S. military, the U.S., we are jamming like telecom signals in the entire Caribbean, namely off the coast of Venezuela. I wouldn't exactly be surprised. I'm sure he's right, to be honest, to give credit here to Bruno Rodriguez. He's probably right. Now, let's talk about what this military buildup looks like and exactly what we have off of the coast of Venezuela right now. I've compiled a little bit of a list here. Right now, over the last couple weeks, we have built up off of the coast of Venezuela. We have the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, which, for the record, is our most advanced most technologically advanced, state-of-the-art carrier strike group. We have numerous amphibious ready groups off of the coast of Venezuela right now. We have a collective of a combined, at a minimum, 5,000 U.S. Marines right now waiting off the coast of Venezuela. We have 70 individual military aircraft off the coast of Venezuela, and we also got the confirmation a couple days ago. Right now, we have over 200 Tomahawk missiles right now off of the coast of Venezuela. So if you want to talk about what a military buildup looks like, that's kind of what it looks like. And then, of course, on top of that, it would seem to be the case that we're engaging in telecom jamming. Also, that's at least what the Cuba foreign minister has to say. Now, Maduro, another report coming out today. Maduro and his associates have reached out to the White House through a number of channels, and there are ongoing discussions about what communication between the two countries might look like. We have been hearing reports for weeks now, numerous weeks, in response to this buildup, that Maduro has been increasingly erratic and probably desperate is the proper word to use here. We heard a report about 10 days ago coming out of Venezuela. Maduro actually made the offer publicly to President Trump. He said, listen, President Trump, take whatever you want from Venezuela. You can, listen, we're going to stop the narco trafficking. You know, Venezuela is the most oil-rich nation in the world if you're talking about untapped oil reserves. Maduro offered all of Venezuela's oil to Trump. Listen, Trump, take whatever you want. Take all the oil. We're going to shut down the narco trafficking, whatever. Just please let me remain in control of the country. Just please don't depose me or kick me out of the country or kill me. Just let me remain the leader of the country, and Trump, we can work out a deal. You can have whatever you want. And Trump's response was, no, it's not about that. No. Actually, Maduro, this is not what that is about. This is not about stealing all of the oil. This is about getting rid of a threat to the United States of America, who has been a threat for the last 12 years now, really ever since coming into office in 2013. Maduro, that is, who is uniquely responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans. In fact, this problem with Americans overdosing and becoming addicted to narcotics coming out of Latin America, namely Venezuela, this problem has become so pronounced in this country that I would guess that every single person here in this audience knows someone that is either addicted to opiates, has overdosed on opiates. Maybe you yourself struggled with an opiate addiction. This issue has impacted the lives of every single American. It's your daughter, your mother, your brother, your friend's sister. In my case, it's my best friend's sister. Got caught up in this stuff accidentally. She was smoking weed and it was laced with fentanyl. Boom, now she's an addict. That's a true story from my life. One of my good friend's sisters. And so I would guess that every single American has some relation to this. This has impacted the lives of Americans for a very long time, and in large part because of the Maduro regime and what has been going on in Venezuela. And so Trump is not interested in striking a deal. Trump wants Maduro gone. And that is the ultimatum that was given earlier today. I want to read this report coming to you out of the Wall Street Journal. Breaking: Trump told Venezuela's president, Maduro, that if he didn't leave power willingly, the United States would consider other options, including using force, according to the Wall Street Journal. And this report has been corroborated by numerous other outlets, so there it is. So, like I said a moment ago, Trump wants Maduro gone. And he's actually, in a way, he's being sort of nice about it. He's saying, listen, Maduro, I'm not just going to drop a bomb on your head. You have an option to leave willingly, but your days of lording over Venezuela are over. It's over. You can either leave, you can do this the easy way, you can do this the hard way, you can go seek refuge in Brazil or Colombia or something, but you got to go. It's over. The regime is over. The Maduro regime is over. You can leave on your own. You can either self-deport or we will deport you to hell. Pretty much that is the ultimatum. And so we actually, at this point, we don't know what Maduro's response is. However, we do hear a little snippet from, because all of this is unfolding right now, we hear a snippet from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who chimes in and gives his thoughts on this situation as it is unfolding. Take a look at what he had to say.
I don't think that the European Union gets to determine what international law is. They certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe. But when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States is, and this president has made very clear, his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
And so, as you all know, this is a direct response to some of the condemnation coming from Europe. Various figureheads, heads of state in Europe have come out and said, well, Trump, it's a violation of international law. Trump is blowing up these narco-trafficking boats. We condemn this. He shouldn't be doing this. Perhaps most notably the United Kingdom. And so this is just pretty much a slam dunk. Rubio is saying, listen, when it comes to defending Europe, Europe is they really want America's help. They love the Europeans. They love it when America defends Europe on their behalf. But when America is seeking to defend America from threats within our own hemisphere, then Europe is coming out saying, hey, listen, America, you're not allowed to do that. You better save those Tomahawk missiles for us over here in Europe. Listen, listen, this is what it means to be America first. And I have to tell you, you all know that I am I'll call myself a Monroe Doctrine American. In fact, these days, I see a lot of people calling it the Trump Doctrine. Really, it's the Monroe Doctrine. And a lot of you know this. This started really in 1813, 200 years ago, more, if my memory is correct. And so effectively what the Monroe Doctrine says, this is the key point of American foreign policy that has guided this country for almost the entire history of our nation. 200 years or more, the Monroe Doctrine. Effectively, what this says is that the Western Hemisphere, the hemisphere in which North America and South America are in, this is our hemisphere. And of course, other people exist in this hemisphere with us, but really, this is our hemisphere. And here in the United States of America, we are not going to tolerate any threats to American national security in our own hemisphere. And so Trump very obviously takes this very seriously. This is why Trump is interested in Greenland for national security reasons, because it's directly adjacent to the North Sea Passage, and you've got Russia and China sending submarines and all types of stuff north of Canada. Okay, so Trump doesn't like that. This is why Trump is interested in taking back the Panama Canal. It is a national security threat for a hostile nation, the CCP in this case, to operate the Panama Canal and have control over the Panama Canal. That's a problem. And now we're talking about having a narco-terror regime operating just south of us in our own backyard. This is Maduro in Venezuela. This is a national security threat very seriously, very obviously. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have already died as a result of this narco-terror regime. And if you disagree that this is a problem worth solving, I would ask you a question. How many more Americans need to die under this Maduro-led narco-terror regime? Is 400,000 not enough? That's a serious question. How much longer should we continue turning a blind eye to Maduro's regime? Do we need to let 1 million Americans die? Should it be 2 million or 5 million or 10 million? Or can we say enough is enough? And we need to stop turning our blind eye and burying our head in the sand to this very clear national security threat that is the Maduro regime down in Venezuela. It's got to come to an end. And so I noticed something very interesting on X today. There's an American patriot that I respect quite a lot. I think a lot of us do. His name is General Michael Flynn, who, by the way, I don't want to brag here. Michael Flynn the other day followed me on Twitter. This happened 2 days ago. It made my day. I was like, what? Mike Flynn followed me? Anyway, you guys don't care about that. I was grinning all day. That made my day. Anyway, Mike Flynn came out just 3 hours ago. And Mike Flynn, he said, Maduro, I think it's time. Mike Flynn, American patriot, he said, Maduro, I think it's time. And so, you know, this is President Trump's former national security advisor, 2017. Okay, this guy really, there's a figure of speech. He fell on the sword to protect President Trump. This guy made the ultimate career sacrifice. He had every incentive, every reason to throw Trump under the bus in 2017. Mike Flynn didn't do that. Mike Flynn protected President Trump. I respect that. That's loyalty. I really respect Mike Flynn. He is an American patriot through and through. And so he came out. He knows what he's saying. He said, Maduro, I think it's time. There was another curious post I saw on Twitter. I guess I put a little bit less faith in this one, but this is Dominik Tarczyński, who is a politician from Poland. Now, some of you might have seen this individual. He's kind of popular. I think a lot of you probably know he's kind of popular on the internet. He's based and he's like traditional. He's a traditional based politician in Poland, but he's Polish. He's not an American politician. But he posted something interesting earlier today as well. He said, Venezuela, tonight, you have been warned. ... And then he posted a picture of what? Some B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. He posted a picture of a pair of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. And he said, Venezuela, tonight, you have been warned. And so, you know, to be fair, he's not an American politician. He doesn't have access to all of our military operational secrets. So it's kind of like, who cares what he says? But it is intriguing. It does line up with what General Michael Flynn said. He said, Maduro, I think it's time. So frankly, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened yet. I'm expecting something to happen tonight. And we're going to talk more about what I think specifically is going to happen tonight, but we have some other things to talk about. A couple hours ago, 2 U.S. Navy FA-18E Super Hornets fighter jets switched on their transponders while flying over the Caribbean near Aruba and Curacao off the coast of Venezuela. Boom, there's Caracas. Okay, Caracas, sorry. I don't speak Spanish. There's Caracas. And so, you know, just kind of explaining the way this works, a lot of the U.S. military aircraft, they flip off their transponders, which means that all of us, we can't publicly track them. Makes sense. The U.S. military doesn't want a bunch of civilian, regular people like us or people in the Venezuelan military being able to track the location of U.S. military aircraft. So they flip off their public transponders. Well, curiously, they just for a couple minutes, they flipped them off. They flipped them on off of the coast of Venezuela. About 5 minutes later, they flipped them off. They flipped them back off. And so how do you read that? I read that as kind of a warning. They're doing flybys off the coast of Venezuela, flip them on. Hey, guess what, Venezuela? Here we are. Boom, flip them back off. It almost seems a little bit ominous. It almost seems like a little bit warning. It's like, hey, listen, hey, we are right here. Boom, and now you can't see us again. Now we're invisible again. Now you have no idea where we are again. So it's almost like a little bit of a psychological warfare that is going on right now. In response, the Venezuelan military, the illustrious Venezuelan military, is on high alert. I'm going to play a 1 minute long video. There's warning, they are speaking Spanish, but we're going to play this video for 1 minute. This is footage coming out of Venezuela earlier today. Take a look.
La isla de Patos se va a hacer un saneamiento y exploración.
They are preparing.
Con todos los medios aeronaves para contribuir al ejercicio que estamos efectuando en este momento en el adiestramiento y la cooperación de todas las tripulaciones y el personal de combatiente individual.
Bueno, señores generales, y esto es una realidad, no me canso de repetirles y recordarles que el destino y el universo nos ha dado a nosotros, hasta el 5 destino, nos ha dado a nosotros la oportunidad de saber cuál es el propósito nuestro.
So, you know, maybe we don't need to play this entire thing because it is a bunch of Spanish jibber jabber. No hablo español. Now, what you can see is that they have a map of the Venezuelan coastline, and they are strategizing, maybe doing a little bit of war gaming here. And so what we have seen also today, we've got on-the-ground reports coming out. This is on the ground of Venezuela. We see that the Venezuelan military now, and by the way, there are like dozens of these reports. I picked one right here that had the best photos, to be honest, but there are dozens of reports just like this all up and down, east to west on the Venezuelan coast. The Venezuelan military, they are deploying surface-to-air rocket launchers. So they are, and these are photos fresh, posted this afternoon. They are deploying rocket launchers all up and down the coast. It's almost like they're kind of battering down the hatches here, getting ready for some type of, maybe it's almost like they're expecting some type of D-Day style land invasion, which most certainly is not what is going to happen. If anybody is thinking that Trump is going to like deploy a bunch of Marines and they're going to be storming the beach, that's not exactly how Trump operates. I'll tell you here in a minute kind of what I think is going to happen. But first, I do have this other report. U.S. military officials have developed a range. This is relevant. U.S. military officials have developed a range of target options for Trump, including Venezuelan military units that profit from the drug trade or that support Nicolas Maduro, the narco-terrorist in chief. And so, yeah, no, listen, we are not going to see like a D-Day style land invasion. What we would see is a series of targeted strikes. We know that President Trump is not afraid to carry out targeted strikes. We saw in June, I believe, Operation Midnight Hammer. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think that there will be, maybe even tonight, probably tonight, I don't know if I had to bet, maybe tonight, there will be some sort of operation similar to Operation Midnight Hammer, which happened in June a couple months ago, which is when President Trump, of course, deployed the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers to blow up various Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities. I think that tonight, or maybe in the next couple days, we will see some sort of similar operation against the mainland of Venezuela, against the Venezuelan Maduro regime to some degree. And then, of course, you have to talk about what exactly would they be targeting. I would guess, and I'm just some guy on a computer in front of a microphone, so what the hell do I know? I'm not a military strategist. I would guess that these strikes are not going to be targeting Maduro himself, but rather various key narco-trafficking positions, manufacturing facilities, naval maritime ports where they export these drugs across the Caribbean into the United States. But there are a couple ideas I had, things that are just kind of floating around in my brain. Let's talk about the multiple ways that this could go. You know, if Trump takes out Maduro, I think it's possible that he risks, in a way, this is hard to believe, but he could possibly turn Maduro into a martyr of sorts, instigating some type of international backlash or even a more serious backlash from internally inside Venezuela. We've already seen these European Union nations condemning what Trump has already been doing, blowing up narco-trafficking boats. Obviously, they are moronic for doing that, but who knows? Maybe other countries around the world, if Trump hypothetically blows up Maduro in a targeted strike, maybe these other countries, Europe, I don't know, God knows where, they place sanctions on the United States for doing that. They say, all right, enough is enough. We're going to sanction the United States. That's off limits. If Maduro's taken out, also, it could destabilize. Venezuela has a population of 28 million people, by the way. So what could happen is that if the Maduro regime is completely wiped off the face of the map, that we have regional destabilization. Remember what we saw in 2015 and 2016 when there was regional destabilization in Syria specifically? We saw a crazy migrant crisis where millions, tens of millions of migrants, not just from Syria, but all across the Middle East and Africa, they took the opportunity to pretty much invade Europe. And they're still dealing with the consequences of that to this day. And so if there's massive regional destabilization in Venezuela, what we might see is millions of Venezuelans, or how many other millions of Latin Americans, trying to make their way up into the United States, which is what happened a decade ago in Europe. Now, I do have to say, now that Trump is back in the White House, the southern border with Mexico is like pretty much completely on lock. So to be fair, maybe that is a little bit of a lesser concern, but probably a concern nonetheless. Now, I've also been reading reports that Maduro has, over the last couple of years, because he's worried about Trump. Maduro and Trump, they're not big fans of each other. Maduro has made every effort he possibly can to coup-proof or overthrow-proof his regime, his government, if you can even call it a government. What that means is that he has set up this extensive network of decentralized points, chains in the command structure, so that if he is executed or assassinated, blown up in some targeted strike, that his regime would still be able to, in some capacity, maintain control of the country. This is something that he has baked into his command structure. He's tried to make it bigger than just him for fear of being assassinated. And so this is why, all of these reasons, this is why I think that President Trump has pretty much taken the approach that he has so far. What has he done? President Trump has issued a massive, overwhelming show of force off the coast of Venezuela, the Gerald Ford, USSR Ford Carrier Battle Group, the amphibious ready groups, the Marines, the aerial flybys. This is all meant to be intimidating. And then after the intimidation effect has hit, after that show of force has been displayed, President Trump earlier today, what did he do? He issued the ultimatum. He said, listen, Maduro, there are only two ways out of this. You can either leave the country on your own, you can self-deport, you can flee, you can relinquish the reins of Venezuela, you got to go, or this is no longer going to be a show of force, this is going to be an execution of force. And so that's kind of the ultimatum right now. Now, I've seen unconfirmed reports that Maduro actually earlier today fled the country, that he's actually in Brazil right now. I don't know if that's true. That could be true. Like hour by hour, minute by minute, we're getting more information, but my objective today is to do a recap so far. But there is a rumor going around that Maduro has actually already fled the country, that he's in Brazil, possibly even Colombia. He's got close ties to Colombia as well. So we will have to see. But that is where things currently stand right now, folks. That is where we currently are. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to do at this point is bring up the super chats and see what you fine ladies and gentlemen in the audience have to say. I will say, everybody, if you enjoy the show, make sure to like, subscribe. I'm a one-man show. This is a one-man operation. So if you appreciate the coverage, the videos, the live broadcasts, everybody make sure to tune in and support, subscribe, like, follow everywhere. As I like to say, follow me everywhere other than in real life. Pretty much. Now, I got the super chats pulled up here, so everybody, thank you for your patience. Let's start this off with Polly Puree. She says, hello, everyone. Polly is here every single day. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Big Wen, he says, Matt, why don't you have any mods? You have some vile individuals in your chat that should be kicked out. Yeah, I probably should get some mods. Honestly, I'm just, really, there's no reason. I just don't really have any good moderators. So maybe I should get a couple more moderators. I feel like when we've got 15,000 people in the live chat, you're right, all it takes is 1% of crazy people, and then the entire thing has gone to hell. So maybe I should get some moderators. Thank you very much. That's a good reminder. Thank you very much. Wolf's Watch, he says, Obama got away with droning people, so Trump thinks he can get as well for suspected drugs. Can a cop plug you because they suspect they have a weapon? No, international and federal laws prohibit it. Now, I will say this. I have absolutely no doubt that the Department of War and the Trump White House knows for a fact who is on these boats and what is on these boats. Keep in mind, we have the most advanced intelligence apparatus on the face of the planet in all of human history. We can use a military satellite to zoom in. We can analyze the freckles on somebody's nose from space using our satellites. So this idea that, well, these boats in the Caribbean, we have no idea who or what is on these boats. Nobody knows. There's no way to know. Maybe Trump is just blowing up random boats for no reason. I just really don't believe that. I have complete faith that the Trump administration knows exactly who is on the boats, where did they come from, where do they live, where are they loading the boats, what is being loaded onto the boats, from the entire order of operations here. It's I believe that Trump knows exactly what's going on. That the Department of War knows exactly what's going on. So that's my take. Of course, if you're in the military, maybe we have some intelligence agents in the live chat right now. Let me know if you agree, but that seems sensible to me that they know what's on these boats. Thank you, Wolf's Watch. Good to see you, by the way. Welcome back to the show. Thank you very much. We have Leon Smith. He says, it's time for Trump to bring down the hammer. Well, the ultimatum has been issued, and if the ultimatum is rejected, then I think that hammer is coming down. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's we are at the point, we are at the FAFO point of no return. That's probably the best way to put it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leon. Amy says, as a veteran, they all need to go. Embedding is their normal MO. I mean, we have seen God knows how many Venezuelan nut jobs, cartel gang members, Cartel de los Soles, Tren de Aragua, these brutal Venezuelan gangs and cartels just terrorizing Americans. And that's not even talking about the drug lacing and the overdoses. It's bad. It's bad. Tens of billions of dollars to the U.S. economy, hundreds of thousands of dead Americans. It's bad. We need to stop burying our head in the sand. We need to stop turning a blind eye. Something has got to be done about this. Thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Light Pause Heard says, being a former Air Force captain, I can assure you when it comes, Venezuela isn't knowing to know what hit them. By the time they do, the pilots will be home sipping on coffee and having dinner. Yeah, this is something I meant to say. I guess I forgot to say it. We saw them deploying these surface-to-air missiles. I think you're right. In fact, I know you are right. I default to your wisdom, Captain. They're going to have no idea. This is a third world military versus a first world military. And not even a first world military. America is like a zero world military, meaning we are just so far ahead beyond every other military on the face of the planet. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're 100% right. Absolutely. Well, now I lost my super chats. Oh, there they are. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think you're right. I think you're spot on. David Box, he says, it blows my mind to see so many liberals mad about Trump destroying the boats. They're either full of drugs or illegals, and we don't want either. Well, I mean, if these were illegal immigrant, as much as I'm not a fan of illegal aliens, you might have caught on to that. I'm not a big fan of illegal aliens. To be honest, I'm not a fan of dropping bombs on illegal alien boats. However, drug smuggling boats with narco-terrorists, I think it's a different story. They are enemies of the state. They're narco-terrorists. They are hell-bent on killing Americans and profiting off of the death of Americans. Yeah, they're in international waters. We know what they're doing. We have the information. We have the data. We have the intel. It's over. They have assumed that risk by nature of being narco-terrorists. That's my humble opinion. Now, we have a couple more super chats here I want to take a look at. Some crazy ones. This is from Greg Adamite. He says, $50 super chat, Matt. Keep up the great job. I just want to say real quick, can I pause the show? Human to human, everybody, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. The numbers just keep on going up. You guys, it's like, I don't know where you guys are coming from, but every time I go live here, the new time is 5 p.m. Western, 8 p.m. Eastern. More and more and more of you are showing up. I don't know where you guys are coming from, but man, I sure am lucky. I'm appreciative. Thank you very much for tuning in and all the support. Thank you very much, Greg and everybody else. Shout out the guys on Rumble. Everybody follow on Rumble. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. We have another one here from Isaac. He says, lol, Europe putting sanctions on the U.S. I'm organizing my shop alone listening to you. That one made me laugh. No Europe country can't stand against the U.S., not even the EU, economic or otherwise. Also, be well, Morris. I hope you and family good. Well, thank you. Hey, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Hope you got some good Black Friday deals. Good luck in the shop. Thank you very much. They have been very sternly wagging their finger at us from across the pond as it pertains to these narco boats getting blown up. They're not happy. Like we said earlier, they want America involvement in Eastern Europe. They want us to protect them in Europe, but they really don't. They don't want us protecting ourselves over here in the Western Hemisphere. Curious. Funny how that goes, right? Can't help but notice that. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. And good luck in the shop. Hope you're making something cool. Thank you. Now, this is LWR Class. He says, thank you. He says, they fish out of submarines in Venezuela. I didn't realize you could fish underwater. I mean, yeah, have you guys seen these underwater narco trafficking submarines where they're under the water by only a foot or two, and maybe there's a little tiny component like an air hatch that comes right above the waves. You can barely even see them. But yeah, listen, it's not a bunch of Venezuelan fishermen that are navigating these submersibles across the Caribbean, the Gulf of America, into the United States. These are not fishing boats. These are not humble fishing boats. President Trump is blowing up a bunch of humble fishermen, Venezuelan fishermen. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not exactly so sure about that. Thank you very much. Excellent point. Thank you. Man, anything I forget to say, I can count on you guys. You guys are going to say it for me. You guys are doing the show alongside me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Code Eagle, big super chat. Thank you. He says, let's go US effing A, peace through straight. Maybe you mean peace through strength is go time. Thank you very much. Listen, I have to say, you guys know, in fact, I was very vocal about this. I've been vocal about this with the Bush administration and the Obama administration, and the notion that maybe if Trump is dropping bombs in Iran, we're going to have another war in the Middle East, a war on terror. It's going to blow up into an all-out war, boots on the ground, American service members marching through the dunes again. I'm not a big fan of that. You guys know I've been very critical about some of these notions. The last thing we need is another all-out military deployment, boots on the ground, war in the Middle East, etc. Things like this. Nobody wants that. We do not want that. We do not want a Bush-era 2.0 military deployment. That's not what we want. However, when we are talking about securing American national Western Hemisphere security interests, when we're talking about maintaining our position in the Western Hemisphere, pursuing the Monroe Doctrine, and taking out narco traffickers and narco terror regimes in our backyard, if we can do that, and it seems like we can, without having all-out military deployment, then you know what? Okay, we can have a conversation about that. And at this point, listen, we voted for Trump. Trump is a commander-in-chief. We voted for him because we have to put some faith. We have to trust him a little bit. Okay, I trust he knows what he's doing. Do you? I do. So that's kind of where I am. But yeah, you're right. You're right. This is Scott's one final super chat here on YouTube. He says, the airspace over Venezuela is completely dark. Yeah, we saw that. Congestion in all nearby airports in Central and South America. The airspace over Venezuela is completely dark. Okay, you said that twice. Yeah, in fact, I'll show you one more time just to show everybody what he's talking about. Thank you, by the way. Here it is. This is Venezuela. Now, by the way, this is what normal airspace looks like. This is Kansas. This is Oklahoma City. This is the United States of America. A lot of airplanes. Real quick, let's go across. This is Europe. A lot of airplanes. Everybody's going in and out of Istanbul. This is the most popular airport in the world, the Istanbul airport in Turkey. However, come over here to Venezuela and silent. Silent night. Maybe they're getting ready for Christmas. Silent night is what they have down there. So yeah, it seems like President Trump's aerial shutdown has been effective. Now, what might that mean in the next couple hours? I would not be surprised, folks. I would not be surprised if tomorrow morning we end up doing an emergency morning broadcast talking about a bombing run that President Trump carried out, B-2 bombers or otherwise, over the night. Operation Venezuelan Hammer, I don't know. I would not be surprised. So we're going to have to wait and see. But I want to say, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in today. It has been my absolute pleasure to be your host for tonight's broadcast and do my best to make sense of all this. David Yoakum, he says, since when do you fish with 3 or 4 powerful outboard motors? Exactly. And we've all, and 50 barrels, like 50-gallon drums, whatever they are. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you, David. Okay, one final super chat, Wolf's Watch. Thank you very much. Matt, I was MI in the Army and a cop in the Air Force. The issue is using the proper legal process, not judge or an executioner without a trial. We need to start being a good, great example for the world. Here's my opinion. I think it is a good and great example to blow up narco trafficking boats. That's what I think. I guess we have to agree to disagree. I think the best example we can set is, hey, listen, if you are in the act, like caught red-handed, hand in the cookie jar, in the act of actively trafficking narcotics into the United States, which has been going on for a very long time, and we have the proof and evidence. We know exactly where you're coming from, who's doing it, where you're going. We've got the entire process mapped out, charted. We have the intelligence, the satellite imagery, all of it. I think the best thing we can do is blow them up. That's how I feel. So agree to disagree. I think it sends a message. And the message is, if you try to smuggle narcotics into our country, you're going to get blown the hell up. And I think that's a message worth sending, because it seems like nothing else really has been working. This seems to be working pretty well. So we got to agree to disagree. I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Seriously, everybody, God bless. Thank you for being here. That is going to be a wrap for tonight's broadcast. We will be back tomorrow, full steam ahead. Thank you all. So everybody have a great night. Stay safe. God bless. And until next time, thank you very, very much. That is going to be a wrap for today's broadcast. It might be an eventful night. I think we might have a lot to talk about tomorrow. We got to wait and see. Thank you very much.